Imagine diving into a lake and suddenly coming face to face with a giant statue of Jesus Christ staring right at you. That actually happened. And trust me, that's just the beginning of the strangest list I've ever put together. Today, I brought you 10 completely bizarre things that were found inside lakes around the world. From an alligator with a knife stuck in its head to a castle nearly 3,000 years old hidden underwater in Turkey. But before we start, I have a question for you. In my previous video, the one about the 10 snakes you shouldn't mess with, I talked about a snake that has enough venom to kill 125 people with a single bite. Do you remember its name? 4 options are going to appear on screen. Pick the one you think is right and write it in the comments right now. At the end of the video, I'll tell you which answer is correct. Let's go. Number 10. The alligator with a knife in its head. In July 2022, in Florida, in the United States, authorities started receiving photos of something nobody expected to see. An alligator swimming normally in a lake, except with a knife stuck in its head. The photos were taken by local residents, and it didn't take long to go viral on the internet. They quickly reached the state's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and the agents went to the lake as fast as they could. The problem is that the wounds were so deep that there was no way to save the animal. They had to put it down. And here is where things get even heavier. Intentionally hurting an alligator in Florida is a third-degree crime. The person responsible could spend up to 5 years in prison. That's no joke. Thanks to these protection laws, alligators in the region went from being nearly extinct to a population of 1.3 million animals. Even so, attacks on humans are extremely rare. These animals barely come looking for trouble with you. To this day, nobody knows who did this to the alligator. But one thing is certain, seeing an alligator swimming with a knife in its head is not something you're gonna forget anytime soon. Number 9. The statue of Jesus at the bottom of Lake Michigan. At the bottom of Lake Michigan in the United States, there is a life-size statue of Jesus Christ, submerged 6 meters underwater. The crucifix is made of marble, measures 3.3 meters tall, and weighs almost 1 ton. But how did something like that end up down there? The story starts in 1956 in Italy, where the statue was made especially for a family from Michigan that had lost their son in a very serious accident. After a long journey to the United States, the statue arrived at its destination, but with so much damage that the family didn't want to keep it and put it up for sale. A local diver bought it and had it placed at the bottom of Lake Michigan as a tribute to a colleague who had died not long before. And that's how that Jesus ended up underwater. These days, it's become a tourist attraction. Divers and religious tourists go there specifically to see the statue with their own eyes. Some people say they made a vow and it was fulfilled. I can't say whether it's a miracle or a coincidence, but the fact is that not every day do you find a 3-meter statue of Jesus Christ himself at the bottom of a lake. Number 8. The monster goldfish. At the end of 2020, in a lake in South Carolina in the United States, a goldfish was found. That little orange fish a lot of people keep at home. Except this one was anything but small. Someone threw their pet goldfish into this lake to get rid of it. Terrible idea, because that little fish grew so much, it literally became an aquatic monster, weighing almost 5 kilograms. The reason for this is simple. This fish grows according to the environment it lives in. The bigger the space, the bigger the fish. That's why in a fishbowl it stays tiny. But thrown into a lake, it can grow in ways you can't imagine. You can see it in a direct comparison. The goldfish from the fishbowl versus what it becomes in a natural environment. They're practically 2 different animals. So if one day you want to get rid of your goldfish, don't throw it in a lake, a river, or even the toilet. These invasive species cause enormous damage to local ecosystems. Finding a giant aquarium fish in a lake is not something that happens every day. Number 7. The mammoth preserved in ice. In July 2020, in a lake in the Russian Arctic, something was found that left scientists speechless. A complete mammoth skeleton, practically intact. The preservation was so good that some of the bones still had pieces of flesh and skin. It looked like the animal had died just a few days ago. In reality, it had died 10,000 years ago. The remains were buried under the snow, froze, and were preserved in nearly perfect condition for thousands of years. Russian scientists could barely believe it, because finding a complete mammoth skeleton in such good condition is extremely rare. Normally, you find loose, fragmented bones. A whole skeleton like that is an enormous rarity. But not everything about this story is good. The reason the mammoth was found now is because this region of the planet is warming at an alarming rate. The ice is melting. And as it melts, things that have been hidden for thousands of years are starting to appear. It's an incredible find, no doubt, but the reason behind it is nothing to be happy about. Number 6. The garden gnomes at the bottom of the lake. In the depths of Wastewater Lake in England, which is the deepest lake in the country at nearly 80 meters deep, you won't just find fish. You'll find dozens of garden gnomes, those colorful little figurines people put in their backyards. How did they end up there? It's a tradition. A completely crazy tradition, but a tradition. Divers from all over the world place these gnomes at the bottom of the lake just for fun. Some say it's to decorate it, since there's nothing interesting at the bottom. Others place them as a kind of marker to record how far down they've gone. The problem is that this game has already cost lives. Some people died trying to interact with these gnomes in the depths. The local police have already tried to remove them several times to prevent inexperienced divers from taking risks, but every time they're taken out, more appear. I don't know about you, but finding an entire collection of garden gnomes at the bottom of an 80-meter deep lake is, at the very least, one of the most disturbing things on this list. Number 5. The iPhone that survived 6 months underwater. In March 2021, a couple of divers were looking for lost objects at the bottom of Harrison Lake in Canada. Among the things they found was an iPhone 11, and the phone was still working. Not half working, working normally, after 6 months submerged at the bottom of a lake. Apple says the iPhone 11 has an IP68 rating, which allows the phone to be submerged at 2 meters depth for up to 30 minutes. Not 6 months, and not at the depth it was at. The couple took the SIM card out of the phone to see the saved contacts and return the device to its owner. She had lost it during a boat trip on the lake and didn't even try to recover it because she thought it was already ruined. She never imagined that 6 months later, she would be getting a call from strangers saying they had found her phone completely intact. Moral of the story? If you're at a lake visited by tourists, it's worth diving in. You never know what you'll find down there still working. Number 4. The lake that can kill you just by getting close. Lake Karachay in the southern Ural Mountains in Russia looks like a normal lake from a distance. But it's basically a nuclear waste dump. Before 1951, it was a lake like any other. Then the Soviet Union decided it would be a good idea to use it as a dump for radioactive waste from a nearby nuclear plant. For more than 10 years, they threw toxic material in there. The lake gradually became contaminated until it became one of the most polluted places on the entire planet. Today, it's no longer used as a dump, but the damage is already done. And no matter how much time passes, the radiation is not going to decrease anytime soon. We're talking thousands of years. Spending 1 hour near this lake is enough to receive a dose of radiation that can kill you. 1 hour. You don't need to swim, you don't need to touch the water. Just getting close is enough. Obviously, swimming there would be unthinkable. But there are strange things in the lakes of the world, and this is perhaps the most dangerous one on the entire list. Number 3. The Jason statue at the bottom of the lake. At the bottom of Crosby Lake in the United States, there is a life-size statue of Jason Voorhees, that masked character from Friday the 13th, and it's so well made that any diver who comes across it gets a massive scare. The idea came about in 2013 when a fan of the franchise decided to build the statue and place it at the bottom of the lake. But he didn't just want to dump it in there. He wanted to recreate a specific scene from the films. In one of the franchise's movies, Jason ends up trapped at the bottom of a lake with a chain around his ankle. So the guy did exactly that. He placed the statue chained to the bottom, just like in the scene from the film. Since then, it has become one of the most famous tourist attractions in the area. Amateur divers show up excited, dive in, and end up getting a huge fright when they come face to face with Jason staring at them in the darkness of the lake. It's a joke, of course. But finding a life-size statue of a masked killer at the bottom of a lake is definitely one of the strangest things on this list. Number 2. The lake that turns animals into stone. Lake Natron in Tanzania, in Africa, looks beautiful in photos. It has an impressive reddish color. But what this place does to animals that fall into its water is disturbing. It petrifies, turns them into statues. Any bird or animal that touches this water can end up mineralized, as if it had been covered in cement from the inside out. The blame lies in the chemical composition of the water. The lake has extremely high concentrations of sodium carbonate and salt. This mixture basically mummifies any creature that comes into contact with it. And as if that weren't enough, the water temperature is always above 60 degrees Celsius. Only 3 types of organisms can survive there. Reddish algae that give the lake that red color, a specific fish called Alcolica tilapia that is adapted through millions of years of evolution, and flamingos that use their beaks as filters to feed on the algae. If you're not a flamingo or that specific fish, stay far away. Not every lake turns animals into statues. This one is unique in the world. Number 1. The 3,000-year-old castle underwater. At the bottom of Lake Van, the largest lake in all of Turkey, there is a castle. A castle nearly 3,000 years old, entirely submerged, waiting to be found. It was discovered in 2017 by a group of divers who were investigating the area. There were rumors that something was hidden in the depths, but nobody expected to find a fortress of that size in such good condition. According to scientists, the structure was built by the kingdom of Urartu between the 8th and 7th centuries before Christ. That means that when the people who built this castle were alive, there were still more than 700 years to go before the birth of Christ. And here's an important detail. When the castle was built, Lake Van didn't exist yet. Over time, the water advanced over the land and swallowed up the fortress. The inhabitants of the kingdom of Urartu watched this castle be taken by the water and left, leaving behind a structure that remained forgotten for nearly 3,000 years. Today, the sunken castle has become a tourist and scientific destination. Divers and researchers from several countries go there to explore and study the fortress. It's one of the most impressive archaeological finds in recent years. If you ask me what the most incredible thing ever found at the bottom of a lake is, my answer is this: an entire castle, 3,000 years old, waiting for someone to dive deep enough to find it. So, that was the list of the 10 strangest things ever found in lakes. From an alligator with a knife in its head to a castle with nearly 3,000 years of history at the bottom of the water. The world is much bigger and much crazier than we imagine. And answering the question from the beginning of the video, the Baba Wanga prophecy that is generating panic on the internet is that there will supposedly be a third world war in 2026. But I'll warn you right away, don't believe everything you see out there, unless it's some curiosity from this channel. If you got it right, congratulations. If you got it wrong, now you know. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel.